told to jump down and put on my rubber boots, which had been waiting outside, warming in the sunshine. Here's the moment I still recall with perfect clarity. I stepped firmly into my left boot and then suddenly withdrew and screeched with a cry of fierce agony. A needle-sharp pain had shot through my foot. I shook off the boot as quickly as I could, howling. Something small and yellow and black then flew up and out of the opening. My mother, briefly alarmed, was quickly able to identify it. "Wasp!" she cried out, and fled into the unlocked house as quick as a flash, coming back out in a moment with a blue-ridged bottle of calamine lotion and a bowl of ice and a tube of some soothing ointment. Within a few moments my tears were dried, my small chest stopped heaving, the crisis was over, and I was eating cake, showing off my white-daubed and still throbbing wound to friends and winning sympathy all around. And now I realized I knew something I'd never known before. I'd experienced something, and something so memorable that it would remain with me for all the many subsequent years of my life. The world had provided an occurrence for me, painfully to be sure, for a wasp sting is no joke even to one much older, but from which, in time, I would benefit, since I had now learned something. I had quite inadvertently acquired a morsel of knowledge. I knew at the very least what a wasp was and what a wasp would do if about to be crushed by a foot. 2. The arc of every human life is measured out by the ceaseless accumulation of knowledge. Requiring only awareness and yet always welcoming curiosity, the transmission of knowledge into the sentient mind is an uninterruptible process of ebbings and flowings. There are times, in infancy or when at school in youth, during which the rate at which knowledge is gathered becomes intense and urgent, a welling tsunami of information ever ready for the mind to process. At other times, maybe later in life, the inbound knowledge drifts in more slowly, set to adhere and thicken like moss or a patina. Those whose business is the study of the youngest of humans say with a growing certainty just when this process starts. They believe they can identify that very early moment when the innocence of nativity begins to dissolve and erode, the time when, with stealth and without any awareness on the part of the child itself, the gathering of knowledge begins. Early on in this process, there usually comes a moment when the knowing of something becomes more apparent to the young person, when he or she understands, to a greater or lesser degree, that what is happening is somehow ordained to become learning. And if this event is especially momentous, as with the ferocious sting of that summer afternoon wasp, then it's likely to be captured by some corner of the brain and remembered, recalled in certain special cases for the length of the subsequent life. An adult may be fortunate enough to remember, in short, the first thing that was ever learned and how that taught and teachable moment came to be. What knowledge had I gathered from my experience with the wasp? I had already been aware, near unconsciously, of a host of quite mundane things. I could tell hot from cold and recoiled from extremes of both. I knew the various smells of some kinds of food, finding some attractive, others repellent. I could recognize by sight a few kinds of dog or cat, though if asked, I probably could not tell anyone what a dog or a cat actually was. Such knowledge as I had of this corner of the animal kingdom was wholly superficial. And I could not explain just how I knew that despite their bewildering varieties of appearance, all of the canine kingdom, from Airedales to Whippets, were dogs, and were different from cats in all of their own bewildering variety. So yes, I knew a fair amount, as did most children of my age, but that knowledge had been surreptitiously and osmotically acquired. Now, from this new and stinging experience on my front doorstep, I had come to know a remarkable slew of new things. I now knew of the existence of an insect called a wasp. A housefly and a butterfly I suspect I knew already, and, though unrelated, a spider. Moreover, my ever-solicitous mother told me, as she dabbed at my fast-healing wound, that had the stinger been a bee, an insect that looks outwardly quite similar to a wasp, then, because of some peculiarity of its biology, it would have died, and the victim, me in this case, would have had the last laugh. I now knew that a wasp had a sting, that a sting could spread its misery through an entire limb, parts of which would then change colour and size and could swell.